I want to share the different dynamics of this transformation with you because I really believe that you can apply it in your own life in whatever way, and you can use it in a way to change your sense of identity. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you the vibration of what is called ADHD when people have a attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and the vibration of this, how I overcame this in my own life and went from somebody that was constantly, in a way, ungrounded. I had to take Adderall, which is the prescription drug that they give to people that have what is called ADHD. And I was super hyper, and I remember I was working at Nordstrom's and Women's Shoes at the time, and I was always had to be doing something. I would mess with customers. It was at the point to where I would drink 4 shots of espresso right when I got into work, and that would calm me down. 4 shots of espresso had the opposite effect on me. Where most people would take 4 shots of espresso and be really active and really hyper, I would just get calm. So I had that for years, and I overcame that and completely transformed. And there's different energy dynamics of this that I want to share with you that you can also apply in your own life in other ways. And even if you don't have ADHD, you can either share this episode with somebody that does to help them. And also, you can use and apply these same techniques I'm sharing with you for whatever maybe illness or disorder or whatever that you've been prescribed in the past, because this is how I went from that to where I'm at now, which I do not take Adderall. I do not need to smoke cannabis, nor do I do that except for in a very blue moon. And actually, I shared this on the podcast episode recently. I kind of accidentally did it a couple weeks ago at a dinner party where we were smoking tobacco out of this volcano thing. It was like medicinal tobacco mixed with like these essential oils. And somebody accidentally loaded up ganja, not knowing that the bowls were, there were tobacco, and then there was ganja. And all of a sudden, I take a couple hits, and I'm like, wow, I am really high right now. I haven't been like this since 2012. So it was it was more funny than anything else, but I used to need cannabis, and I used to need Adderall, or I couldn't function. And that was in 2012. And then I went through my spiritual awakening. My whole life changed. But I want to share the different dynamics of this transformation with you because I really believe that you can apply it in your own life in whatever way. And you can use it in a way to change your sense of identity. Because that's one of the main things that happened when I was prescribed Adderall and told you have ADHD, is it became a part of my identity that then was on autopilot until I challenged it. And until I realized how flexible our identities are. You may have been given some label, and you thought that this is how you have to be your whole life. But there's many books that prove this, that talk about how we can drop different parts of our sense of self, our sense of identity, and how when we do, we then activate other parts of us that could not have that same element or whatever it is. But the other reason I'm making this episode is I was at the gym yesterday here in Austin. I'm moving to Austin, and I was at the gym, and I've actually met quite a few people. There's a lot of people that I guess are into the spirituality type stuff because I met quite a few people that follow the channel. And I met someone at the gym who was a real nice guy, and he came and introduced himself and said he watched the videos. And the videos that he said that he got that really helped him the most were the video where I talk about ADHD. And I talk about how I used to have Adderall, or I used to take Adderall for ADHD, and how I transformed that and learned meditation. And the interesting thing is he also went through the same exact thing, but that video helped him get on track or helped him like let go of what I share in this podcast episode with you. So it kind of inspired me to be like, you know what, I should retouch on this topic of ADHD, the vibration of ADHD, and by that also the things that we can let go of so that we can heal from ADHD, and how that it can change everything when we really redefine ourselves and we relook at our values. That's what we're going to be doing this episode. So this episode is going to also help you look at your values in a new way and your sense of self and how to let that go. Now, there's another thing that made me think of this, to be honest. Recently I've been looking at values. We all have values. Values are like they're like clusters of beliefs that we live by that are connected to our identity. And there's a whole documentary called I'm Not Your Guru by Tony Robbins, and it's basically a reenactment of his Date with Destiny live event, which I and my buddy Victor went to. And when we went to this event, pretty much it's 6 days of re-looking at your values, what you value the most, and then switching your values or changing your values to then give you a lifetime of happiness versus a lifetime of maybe struggle. Because the 6 human needs that Tony Robbins talks about, and I think there's more different aspects of these, but the 6 human needs are certainty is one of them. We need a sense of certainty. We also need a sense of uncertainty, because if you get too certain, it gets boring, and you need a sense of like aliveness, uncertainty. There's significance. Significance is that of wanting validation from other people, wanting people to see you a certain way. There is connection to other people, connection and like love. That's like a high value for many people. Is that? I think it's connection. And then there's growth. Growth is a sense of increase, a sense of growing, of learning something new. And then the 6th one is contribution. Contribution is like adding value into the world, or philanthropy, or like a sense of a bigger mission. But those are the 6 human needs. Now, the challenge is that when a lot of people go into these seminars, their top value, when not even knowing it, is significance. They want people to know who they are. They want to feel rich so that people can look at them different, or they want to feel famous, and that's their top value. Well, imagine that that's your top value, and then at the bottom is like growth and contribution or something like that, which contribution and love, or contribution and growth, are the values of the soul. The ego wants to feel significant. So a lot of, when I went in there, I was realizing how much I valued significance and how, unhappy that makes me. Now, there's also other values as well, though. And I've talked about this in other episodes, but if you are, for example, a people pleaser or a nice guy, and you want validation from other people, you are trying to make always other people happy and trying not to give them like tension in a way, like not doing something that makes other people unhappy, then a lot of times you value validation from other people over just about everything else. And one of the biggest transformations for me over the last year is I switched up my values, not consciously thinking about this completely, but then eventually I did, and I did this even more. But I was like, what do I really value as me? Not losing my sense of self to make others happy. I realized I value authenticity. I'd rather be authentic and even polarize people over getting people's validation. Integrity is another one. Being the real me, staying consistent to my word. So what I found is that and then putting validation either at the bottom of the list or not on the list at all, it changed a lot. It's still being compassionate, not being a dick necessarily, but I did become more unapologetic in my sense of like just me being me. I started valuing authenticity more than valuing getting validation from other people. And the cool thing is that once I did this, it did not take a lot of time for my whole entire life to transform. I also started valuing leading either my team, leading in love dynamics, leading in my business, leading in my life in general, being in my own frame, which means being in my own body and asking myself, what do I want? Many people that have been through spiritual awakening have had spiritual trauma, and what happens is they lose their sense of self. They escape their body. They go into the top chakras. They connect to everybody else, and they know what everyone else is feeling except for themselves. So for me, a huge part of this is looking at my own values and switching my own values, literally just becoming aware of what my old values were and then starting to value something new. And it changes everything. Now, even recently, I realized that I've been eating much more unhealthy than I used to. I originally, like 6 to 8 months ago, I went through a 3-month cut, means I was in a calorie deficit because I realized I gained 20, 30 pounds when I was going through some emotional stuff. And I gained some fat, and I wasn't eating healthy or just kind of eating everything. And then I got extremely strict, and I went through a 3-month, like literally lost 20, 30 pounds. It was not a healthy cut, and I was miserable pretty much the whole time. And what happened is, through that, I had to switch my values. My values went from, just eating whatever I want, and I started to value eating in a deficit so that I could look a certain way. And I could feel a certain way. I wanted to feel like I didn't like having so much fat on my stomach. And what happened is through the course of just a couple months, that all that changed. And then what happened is I stayed stagnant for a while. I just kept the weight off. And then I was like, I want to gain muscle. So then I had to start gaining muscle, and which meant I had to start being in a calorie surplus, at least a little bit of a calorie surplus for me to gain muscle, and pushing myself more at the gym. So I had to value more intensity at the gym. And you just normally have, by the way, the values for your life in general. But I'm talking about this in this frame because whatever you do on autopilot becomes the norm. I then stopped doing that. I started eating these BS like chips that are really good, but I started eating some food that was not the healthiest. And that became my norm, and I stopped tracking macros, which isn't necessary to track macros, by the way, which means tracking your calories every day. But for me, what gets measured gets managed, so that's what I did. I guess that's the belief system I subscribe to. And I stopped doing that for a while. Now I'm at a place where I'm not crazy out of shape like I was, but I do want to start. I'm realizing, I'm starting to get a little bit more fat here. I want to trim it down a little bit. And I was like, okay, what is it that makes this difference for me going from one identity to the other? Right now, my autopilot is just kind of eating what I feel like eating, which is nothing wrong with, but I'm doing it in a way where I'm like, I'm not eating the healthiest foods. I'm eating foods that stimulate me. And it includes like oats and some gluten and stuff. And I'm like, I don't need to be eating this. What is the difference between the version of me that's eating all this and the version of me that's not? Well, the version of me that's eating healthy, it is natural for me. It's just a standard. It's almost like a standard that I set for myself. But really what it is, it's my values in regards to food. If I value taste over how I feel, I'm more likely to eat food that maybe doesn't make me feel great, but tastes good in the short term. I went for the other day with some friends that I had in town that are moving here now, Victor and his family, and we go to this amazing restaurant. We get delicious food, but for a day afterwards, I felt kind of like weighed down, and I'm thinking to myself, how often I don't want to do this too often. I'd rather, instead of like an hour of pleasure of eating this delicious food, I'd rather like go to a place that's like healthy, but also delicious, and just eat that, So it's a different way, it's a different value system, but what I looked at is my values around food. And what's interesting is also my girlfriend, she values food like the way she eats is so healthy. It's super inspiring because the way that she eats is like she only eats it if she knows it's going to like in a way increase her vibration or increase like how her state of being of how she feels. Super strict with it, with how she eats. And it's inspiring because I used to be like that. And while I'm going to bring elements of that into my diet to where I'm more mindful of how I feel with what I eat, what I value is like putting nutrient-dense food in my body that feels great. At the same time, I like this little middle way to where I can still eat other food. I don't become so restrictive that I can't enjoy other foods. So I can still go out and stuff. But at the same time, like I'm going to infuse that because the values are just different. The thought process is different. It's like, how is this going to make me feel? I value food that raises my frequency more than food that just tastes good in the short term. And the funny thing is once you start valuing things differently, you start, your taste buds change. That's happened to me. So your taste buds start to change. And as your taste buds change, you literally aren't stimulated by going to unhealthy restaurants or unhealthy food. So it's interesting how it works, but literally as your values change, your wiring changes. what you're interested in changes. I hope you guys enjoyed that little segment from my podcast called the Aaron Doughty Podcast. If you want to listen to the rest of that episode, click the link below. You'll see it on iTunes and Spotify. You can download episodes. It's so easy to listen to. You can do it while you're working out, while you're driving. It's so convenient. And that's where new episodes go live every Tuesday and Thursday. Every single week, I have guests coming on the podcast. I have solo episodes, and we go really deep. This is really a place where I get very personable, and I share more about things I'm thinking of. I share my top book insights, and you can check it out and subscribe below, and you will see it there. So iTunes, Spotify, listen to the rest of the episode below as well, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace, much love, and namaste.